We interrupt our regularly scheduled programming to bring you this breaking news. 1D&D was just announced as the new edition? 0.5? You be the judge. We're going to delve into changes in the first Unearthed Arcana. Now that is available for everyone to download. We encourage you to follow along with us as we roll through it. We are Intoxicated Intellect. I got Ben with me today.
Yo.
And I got Brady with me today.
What's up?
Before we get too far into this, quick disclaimer at the beginning. This is all Unearthed Arcana, meaning this is playtest material. None of this is official yet. This is stuff that Wizard of the Coast still wants your guys' feedback on. And I believe the feedback should open up, sometime in September? Early September?
Early September, yes.
Yeah, but keep in mind, any and all of this is subject to change depending on what Wizards of the Coast wants to do. The idea here is that every D&D is available. This is just another potential optional rule set that you might want to use instead of, say, 3.5 or 5e or what have you. Yeah.
Without further ado, 1D&D Unearthed Arcana 1, Character Creation. There's some heavy stuff to get into. Yeah. Brady, take us away.
When it goes to creating your character, three things go into it. Your race, your background, and your language. These are the three most important things, and these are what it focuses on, and we will go over briefly what goes into it or what changes have been made to such things. So, Ben, I know you have some notes written down on the character races. Why don't you go ahead and start with that?
So, let's start off with a big one. Humans. Humans got a bit of a change. So, the biggest one with that is you get inspiration on every long rest. One of the things you'll find that we'll talk about a lot through this is mechanical ways to get inspiration instead of those being awarded via your DM. But we'll get to that, and we'll have a bigger discussion of that on the end, so just bear with us on that.
There's also a quick little thing. They can also be small now.
Yes, they can also be small. A lot of these have the capability of being small now, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But you also gain an additional feat, just like Variant Human. There's no longer a human and a Variant Human for 1D&D, not necessarily straight up for 5e. For 1D&D, there's no differentiation. It's just human. There's also no differentiation for half-elf or half-orc. It is orc or elf with human characteristics, or human with orc or elf characteristics. That's how they're doing it for 1D&D.
Yeah, yes. You could split.
There's a brand new race coming out of this, which is the Ardlings. Basically, divine furries. Have fun with that one. Go look at it. It's all free for you guys. Other big changes. Dragonborn still stays mostly the same. But, big thing now, they have dark vision of 60 feet. Awesome. Never knew why Dragonborn didn't have that in 5e. I could never come up with a reason for it. I'm glad they finally do. It's about
Everyone's
time.
getting dark vision out here.
Yeah. You get dark vision. You get dark vision.
Yeah,
except for the humans.
Dark rooms no longer matter. Magical darkness, though, that still matters. Next thing, dwarves. Dwarves get access to tremor sense instead of their stone cunning to identify something as that was in 5e. Their stone cunning now, as long as they're standing on stone or can contact stone, they have tremor sense up to 60 feet, which is cool.
That's super cool.
I really like that.
I like the broadening of that, yes.
Yeah. Gnomes, on the other hand, gain access to gnomish cunning, which gives them advantage on all of your mental traits for saves. Mental traits being wisdom, intelligence, and charisma.
That's huge.
You have advantage on all of the saves for those three. That's awesome. And again, it makes sense for gnomes. They're pretty resilient folk. Now, the tieflings, this one is not so much a mechanical change. It's more of a lore change that they introduced with 1D&D. And if you've been following the D&D subreddits, some people have been up in arms about it. It's the fact that tieflings are now universally accepted due to some of their ancestors going to war with the denizens of the Nine Hells and the Abyssal Plains. I do want to point out in the writing, many of the, like when it breaks down the different infernal legacies, because there's a bunch of legacy systems with like Ardlings and elves and gnomes and stuff like that that are all awesome and you guys should really look through because some of them provide spells and other benefits. The big thing, and if you guys want to play with a little bit of questionable, like, you know, playing against tieflings, because I know some people enjoy that kind of thing in their game because they are a demonic-looking race. They still do feel the call. They have the tendencies of their infernal legacy, so they still might have tendencies towards greed or towards violence or stuff like that they fight against, but could potentially still be used as a crutch in that kind of a situation.
And the bigger
crutch is a bad word, but
yeah,
you know what I mean.
The bigger implication to all this is that just becomes you come from a certain legacy of madness, evil, or violence doesn't necessarily mean you're heretofore bound
right
to that.
It's who are you, not what are
What
you.
have you been through? What is the measure of your experiences rather than just some arbitrary thing you were born into?
That's a quick rundown of the different changes to the quote-unquote base D&D races. Another thing with new additions and new Unearthed Arcana, you're not going to have the big expansive list that we have from like Volos and all that for character creation, because you got to start small. You have to, or else you're going to explode your game immediately.
Yeah.
But there's another really interesting change, and that comes with backgrounds. Brady, I believe this was one that you wanted to go through.
Yes, so backgrounds. The biggest change here is that those 3 score bumps that normally came with your race, they used to be like a +2 and a +1, depending on which race you were given. And then in Multiverse of Monsters, they changed it to where no matter what race you chose, you could choose a +2 and a +1 to a stat, or 3 +1s. Well, now in 1D&D, that has gone away, and it is all coming out of your background. You can once again choose to bump 1 score by 2, and 1 score by 1, or 3 scores by 1. And it does say if you decide to play this with 5e rules, that you would choose to either get those stat bumps in your background or your race. You do not get them both.
I like that they're covering their bases on that, because
That's a great
this was their like big like, hey, D&D is just D&D. 3.5, 5e, 1 D&D, 4e, all that kind of stuff. Play what you want. It's all D&D. Just, understand rules don't necessarily mix.
Right.
Yeah, you can go back to Thaco if you want to. With this, it's more of a shift of those numbers.
Yep.
And then the other thing is you can create your own background, you can choose a pre-made background, or you can choose a pre-made and customize it. And there are different options, and the handout that Wizards of the Coast gave out goes over what things go into making your background. Go read it for yourself, but just know the options for character background creation are pretty much unlimited.
Yeah, no, you can really delve into this and do what you want to do. I love the fact that they moved like ability score bonuses to backgrounds now.
Yes.
Because I mean, if you think
There's a lot
about it,
of
if I had done like manual labor my entire life, I would have strength and con would probably go into my background of that. But had I done nothing but like tinker with computers, build things, and do stuff like that, I would much more be built into like intelligence and wisdom and stuff like that versus the strength. Your background determines more than just what made you.
Yeah, and let me tell you, the half-elves, even though they were known for charisma and one other random ability score, it doesn't mean they didn't have smiths who are in their fucking beefcakes.
Yep.
Like, just swanging that hammer.
Elven
where they
armor
come
is an
from.
amazing thing for a reason.
Precisely. Like, it doesn't... Your race does not preclude those scores. I'll fight you on that. There's a few fun ones. Like, you can see where some of the racial scores went in some of the pre-made backgrounds, and that's fun to talk about. Tell us what you think in the comments.
Now, I really like how the rest of this came out. Brady, do you want to run through the rest of it?
Just like in 5e, you still got to know some languages. When you make a new character, you know 3 languages. One given by your background that you get to choose, or is given if you choose pick a pre-made. One chosen by you, and then, of course, common. No matter what race you are, no matter what you decide to play, 3 languages.
I love the language coming from the background, by the way. I love that option. I legitimately do. My DM brain actually really likes a lot of the rules out of this Unearthed Arcana.
There are some changes to grappling as well. In 5e, it was opposed strength checks, or in a strength check, or in a dex check. But in 1D&D, what it has done is set a grappling DC, which is equal to your strength modifier plus your proficiency bonus plus 8. And to escape your grapple, the monster must just beat that using their strength or dex mod.
And vice versa for monsters. It's the same reasoning.
It's just no longer opposed. There's now a set number.
It's a hard mechanic versus a soft mechanic now.
The other biggest change that's not going to require debates on our part is feats. So now the alert feat is scalable. Instead of being a hard +5 to your initiative bonus, it scales to your proficiency. So that goes
You'll
up.
love to see it.
And one other thing
here's the weird part that some people have things. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
you,
you're good.
Here's the fun one.
That's what it's for.
You can switch initiative places with one willing ally at the start of a combat, and the only thing is you can't do it if one of you's incapacitated. You talk about having control of where you and another person are in that initiative order, there you go.
It sounds
I mean,
like a
straight up,
tactician kind of
that's-
feat,
yeah.
right?
It's less of a I want to go first in combat. It's more I want to make sure my friend doesn't get fucking ambushed first in
Yeah, it
combat.
doesn't get absolutely slammed upon. They've laid out some really good stuff. Brady specifically pointed out to me earlier the healer feat.
I'll get into that in just a moment.
Okay.
But the other one that changes of a feat that we're used to in 5e is lucky. It's no longer 3 luck points a day. It is now equal to your proficiency bonus, so it scales.
Which is terrifying as a DM.
Yes.
Not gonna lie about that, but I do like having more.
Yes.
It
makes
really,
sense.
It's like it makes sense that it scales that way. It really does.
Now, Justin, you mentioned that healer's kit that I specifically pointed out. I read this and I did some maths because I'm just going to specifically go over what that healer does for you. You gain something called Battle Medic. And if you have a healer's kit, you can expend 1 use of it and tend to a creature within 5 feet of you as an action. That creature gets to expend 1 of its hits dice, and then you roll that hit dice, and the creature regains a number of hit points equal to the roll plus your proficiency bonus. Hear me out on this. A healer's kit costs 5 gold and comes with 10 uses. That is 50
I thought it was
heals.
5 uses.
No, I looked it up. It is 10. That is 50
enough.
uses of rezzing a player for 1 of their hit die plus your proficiency bonus for 50. So, and then for 50 gold, you know what else costs 50 gold?
Got it. Okay.
Is a healing potion. So you can spend
Yeah.
50 gold for 1 use of a 1d4 or 2d4 plus 2, or you can spend 5 gold, 10 uses of their hit die plus your proficiency bonus, or if you want to make it again, that 50 gold you would spend on that healing potion is 100 uses of a healer's kit. You tell me where you want your money to go.
It serves the long-term stabilization game. Healing in D&D is not a matter of topping your people off or even getting them up to
At
like,
least not 5e. I don't
or
know
even
about earlier
yeah,
editions,
or
I
even
don't play
yeah.
this.
I don't think it ever really was.
I feel it also gives use to the
Beer
healer's kit
Guardians
now.
goes burr.
'Cause healer's kits were always nice, but all it did was
wasn't-
stabilize.
Yeah. And even
Yeah.
with the healer feat beforehand, the healer feat in 5e is kind of trashed. Plus, doing this new with that battle medic alone means you don't necessarily need a cleric or a divine soul sorcerer. You don't necessarily need those in your party to still effectively heal the party. Now you can have a tactician fighter who's really playing background and support who can still heal everybody.
Yes. And
You
then
can play what you want to play with a feat now, a free one, and still not have to worry about fitting a healer into your party even if they're underpowered.
And not only can you res your players on the go in combat, you get healing rerolls. If the die you're rolling to heal rolls a 1, you can re-roll that die and then you must use the new die.
Yep.
So you're never just
I'm
going to
gonna
get
tell you,
bare
I love
minimum.
it.
That sucks, but
But your
gonna
chances
tell
of
you, I love
rolling a 1 are now essentially halved.
yeah, which is awesome. I really dig the way the healer's kit is working now, because it's not going to remove clerical healing. It's
No.
not going to remove that kind of stuff, because that stuff is still uber powerful and you can do it from range. This is now a way for, if like, especially for a bunch of newbies and stuff like that, because a lot of times, like, I just ran a 1 with a bunch of new people and we had 2 barbarians, 2 rangers, and a paladin.
Yeah.
Ain't no one healing in that party because that paladin focused on healing themselves.
I'm gonna lay on
So-
hands myself.
Yeah,
Yep.
now I'm keeping myself up. So, it's one of those things that really makes it for way more like introing new people friendly. And for those that have played a long time, it really changes up battlefield tactics.
Yeah, it does.
This is honestly good for both types of characters.
I want to go into something that's really important to me. They've redone spell lists. So spell lists are now separated into 3 different things. There's your arcane spells, your the art as it used to be known. You've got divine spells, and you've got primal spells.
And they do about what you think, honestly. Like everything I
Yeah,
have in them right now fits it.
Like the classes that go into those make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Basically, your primal is your druids and your rangers. Your divine are your clerics and your paladins, obviously, and your
Arcanes, bards, and wizards.
everyone
archers
else.
And stuff. Yeah, pretty
Everyone
much
else.
Yeah.
You know, there's things I like and there's things I don't like about this. I like the versatility of it. Listen, guys, I've played a bard and I've played a wizard, and those are 2 of the most expansive spell lists in the game. getting locked out of a few healing or other spells, well, there's feats for that now, and I get one for free, and that's
Yep.
arcane. That's that's the adept, magical adept. I could choose a first level spell like a healing word, for instance, and not have to worry about playing a bard that can't heal. That's what that's for. That's the broadening of the horizons there. One of the arguments I've seen is that the arcane spell list doesn't have healing spells. Well, you know what? You're
That's
a
the
bard.
idea,
You've got
though.
versatility, dude. Come on. You'll
Also,
get to
that's
it.
the idea of an arcane list.
And
Arcane isn't about
One
healing.
other thing
Divine
No,
is
divine
the
is
only
about
list
healing.
we have for spells so far only goes through first level, and
First
it's
level, so
probably
things might change.
and they even said it's
Precisely.
a sample list, so it's probably not even the entirety of the cantrips and first level
Yeah.
spells on these lists.
No,
So-
100%. It only includes stuff from like the player's handbook and early stuff. It
Exactly.
doesn't include many expansion. So this is just kind of a guidepost more than anything. I think there's some distinct advantages to this, and I think that there are some clever ways around it.
It also gives classes a whole lot more identity, which is super nice.
Yeah,
Because I'll be honest, there's a lot of them that kind of mesh together at a certain point. D20 tests. Brady, I know you've read through a lot of these D20 tests.
So a D20 test, what it is it encompasses any time you'd roll a D20, attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. And what the changes are is a nat 1 is an auto fail regardless of modifiers, and a nat 20 is an auto success regardless of modifiers, but not taking into account line of sight or other
Right.
conditions that must be met for a success to happen. So that's what it changes with the D20 tests.
Now that we've mentioned it, let's revisit what the fuck we just said. Because auto fails, auto successes on skill checks. Nat 1s and nat 20s. Now, everyone plays with different rules. Some people allow a nat 20 to auto succeed. Some people make a nat 1 fail. Personally, in my games, I don't play that way when I run them. I like to have the DCs. And even if someone does a nat 1, but has a plus 15 to their ability set, they're still likely gonna pass it, even doing as bad as they can possibly do. Even though a barbarian rolled a nat 20, my guess is he's not finding some super niche lore in the middle of a library because that motherfucker can't even read.
No, but
You know
and
what
if
I
your
mean? Like-
rogue rolls a nat 1 on a thieves tools check and they've put expertise into it and you're level 17, you're probably still gonna pass whatever you're trying to pick.
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, this is one that I straight up am going to ignore. People
No,
are
if
welcome
you-
to do what you will. You're welcome to do what you will. I'm going to ignore this.
This
I
is
don't
for
like this.
flukes. This is for
Yeah.
flukes, and it's for hostile DMs. It's for rule Nazi DMs. It's
It's a good like
way to
PvP
try and,
style campaign where the DM like, hey, it's DM VPC. Like,
Yeah.
that is a good way to play this, and that's a case where I might use this rule. In
But
normal
the-
games, though, not absolutely
No.
not. My biggest point of this is there are certain roles, because when I DM, I try to look at what my players are bringing to the
No,
table.
I'm not
right?
disagreeing with that at
So-
all.
Yeah, no, I'm just giving this more as like just a general like like statement for the audience. I know like you and I DM fairly similarly. Like we're
No, you guys have this. Keep
yeah,
look,
where you want a certain player to have their niche. All right, so you want your wizard to be able to do the research. You want your bard to be the only one that can coerce an entire room. You want your barbarian to be the one that hand scales an entire mountain by himself because he's just that fucking strong.
like the
like-
perfect game of Plinko. Everyone just
Yeah.
falls into their place.
Tool
Let's
proficiencies.
sandwich this.
If you have a proficiency with a tool, you get to add your proficiency to an ability check you make that uses that tool. But say your DM pairs that tool check. So say you want to play your loot and they're like, okay, make a performance check. So now say you have proficiency with the loot and performance. You would gain your proficiency bonus as normal and get advantage on the check.
Oh,
Oh,
that makes
because-
sense. No,
because
I kinda like that,
absolutely.
actually.
Absolutely. Let me tell you guys. Time of Your Life by Green Day was officially released as fuck. And then he goes into the song proper. He screws up twice, and that's what this is. This is
Yeah.
advantage on a performance check for just like, oh wait, sorry, those aren't the notes. Hold on, wait, let me try that one again.
So inspiration. When you have inspiration, you can expend it to give yourself advantage on a D20 test. You must point right off the bat. You must decide to do so before rolling the dice. We'll get into that when we go over it more. Gaining inspiration. The main way for a character to gain inspiration is by rolling a 20 for a d20 test. The DM can also award inspiration to a character who's done something that's particularly heroic or amusing. Only one at a time. You can never have more than one instance of inspiration. If something gives you inspiration and you already have it, you can give the inspiration to a player character in your group who lacks it, losing inspiration. If you still have inspiration when you start a long rest, you lose that inspiration.
Now you can no longer hold it for sessions. Because we all have a player that does that, and it can be unfortunate.
And not necessarily. I mean, you can have it for a while, but
You can
even if
have
they
it for
have
a while if you don't sleep.
And if
But
you're a
even if
human,
they have
you
it-
can hold it the entire day, every day, if you so choose.
Yeah. But here's the big thing with this. And this is another rule this is one where a lot of people have had issues that I actually really like. Having more mechanical ways to get inspiration is great because it allows you to thematically adjust DCs on the fly, thematically give people another chance to try to find things. It allows you as a DM a lot more leeway in like, oh, I set that check a little bit too high. Oh, he's got inspiration, he'll re-roll it. I can have a chance to like reduce this or something along that lines. Or even that, just being able to get extra advantage based on like, I will never do the auto success on a 20. I will give inspiration on a 20. I like that mechanically. You've done as good as you can. You better get something out of it.
Like you did a really good flourish and it caught him off balance. All right. So the next attack against him will have advantage, even if it's just something like that. Even if it's a way of passing.
One will.
Yeah. Or you get like you get inspiration. So now you have a chance at your next attack.
I think we're all in agreement.
I like
on that one. The one that I have an issue with when it comes to inspiration now is that you have to decide to use it before making the check or roll or whatever you're doing. I don't like that. The whole point of inspiration, at least for me, is to be able to see that, oh, I did terrible on that roll. Quickly, I'm going to re-roll that. So I don't like that.
I understand your point. I kind of like it as I know this is an important check. So that means I'm going to make sure I hit it. You know what I mean?
You see that in a lot of the rules too. Like you must decide before or after that the result is known. Like that's in a lot of spells and a lot of feats and class features and stuff like that. It's just a matter of before or after. It's a matter of whether you lead with a bluff or you answer with another chance.
I do, with all the extra mechanical ways, especially with the human, I do actually like that for human, for them getting inspiration, because it's a very human thing. You wake up like, I got this today. I can make this work.
I woke up from a dream.
Yeah. So it's having more mechanical ways in addition to your DM giving out inspiration is a great way to give people like, roll your inspiration. Use it. You do not need to hold on to it. It will go away if you don't use it. And there's a way that you have way more chances to get it. That's the part about this that I really like. It encourages more uses of inspiration, which are great ways to help kind of push a story along. All right, let's hit this last one because I think we're getting a little long in the tooth.
Yep.
This is the big one. This matters. And if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and take the lead on this one.
Go for it.
Critical hits. So, critical hits with 1 D&D now only apply to weapons and unarmed strikes. If they have an unarmed strike specifically that roll a weapon die, so monk attacks and tavern brawler attacks. As long as it has a weapon die, it can critically hit. What cannot critically hit, based on that specific wording, and it could get more specific in the future, bear with us on this is why we give feedback, is things that are spells, sneak attack, divine smite, are the big three that I have seen pop up everywhere that I've been reading about this UI. I'm going to roll through my points if you guys don't mind, because I actually see where they're coming from with this one. The big thing they're trying to curb here, meta builds. Rogue Paladin, Sorkadin, things like that that really build on having these high-level smites, or this high-level sneak attack, that are built to fish for advantage, fish for criticals, do these kind of things. You feel really powerful in the hit, and trust me, I've played these meta builds. I think anyone who's played for a minute they're fun. It is fun. I'm not saying it's not. But what they're trying to do, at least in my opinion, is curb some of that meta build style. You can still multi-class, but now you can't multi-class purely for the increased damage. Because what's the number one thing you see people complain about, especially DMs, is that their party is obliterating their monsters like nothing.
Well, I'm gonna sneak attack and divine smite on that.
I've done it. It's
critical.
super
Yeah.
fun. It's so many
No,
dice
it's
to
really
roll.
You
it's
have
really
higher level
satisfying.
spell slots for a reason. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could choose one or the other, is what I'm gonna say. If you're sneak attack damage, especially on these multi-class builds, you choose one or the other. But I'm gonna say, if you're not using a weapon and you're using a spell, you get that critical. That's the caveat. You can use one or the other for weapons, but if it's purely a spell and you're not attacking with any kind of bladed weapon or like something like that, I
Hold
think
that
it
thought,
should just be
Justin. I
crit.
want to let Brady go because I can tell he wants to say
Yeah.
something, but I have an answer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I want to
no.
hear that.
No, what I'm saying is sneak attack doesn't need to crit, it scales. Divine smite doesn't need to crit. You can choose what level to smite at. Spells don't need it. Like I said, you get spell slot levels for a reason. You could choose, quote unquote, to crit with a spell or a sneak attack. We're not sneak attacks, you don't get the choice, but it scales. It
The
doesn't
quotes are
need.
important there.
Yeah, it doesn't need the extra damage on top of that. Justin, I just want to also give you a moment to formulate your thoughts and really collect what you were saying.
No, you're absolutely right, because most of the ones that actually scale are cantrips anyway.
Yeah, most ones that
like
scale are
anything else
cantrips.
is going to be just spell slots. Who
Mhm.
knows if that's going to change or not?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it will. The thing of it is, this game is not going to be played at low levels with these rules.
I think it
I'm
still
s-
will.
I-
It just depends on
I
the
think it
party.
still will, but I think it's going to be boring, and people will not continue to play it. Like, even we start at level 3 with the 5e rules, and we
Yeah.
go to level 20 to have some fun and test some numbers.
That's fair. I mean,
I've seen
yeah.
at least one account of level 1, and looking at just these stats, it's really hard to say that I'm going to have fun at level 1.
You only
Trying
go
to
level
be
1 if you have a party who's like, I
Yeah,
want
you
the
need-
challenge.
you need 4 people now.
Yeah.
You need 4
it.
people now.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Like, you can't play D&D with a 3-party with these rules at level 1. You just can't do
Right.
it. There aren't enough roles filled with what you've got.
But to the point I was going to say earlier, Justin, just before I get too far off topic.
No,
with
go
it.
for it.
You remember Dragon Age Origins, right?
Yes. Yeah.
If any of us have ever played that, I think you
Oh
might
my
have
God,
an idea where
twice.
I'm going with this. Yeah.
Twice all the way through.
Yeah, if you played that, weapons in Dragon Age Origin could critically hit. Staves and spells could not. Now, I bring this up because of one thing. If you've played those games, they're really fucking fun. Even the extra
Yeah.
challenge of it. Because
Origins
you have
is
the capability
unforgiving.
to build it. Origins is
Origins
super
can be
unforgiving.
unforgiving. Yes.
I agree with you that this makes it harder for newbies, this particular rule. But once again, this goes back to all D&D is the same D&D. You just get to pick and choose what rules you want. This
Right,
is a
it's
rule that, once again, I would choose for a party, not necessarily like you guys, I talked with you before I did it, but like you guys who are like, we've done this a lot, let's play something that's a little bit more challenging. Let's do something that's going to make us have to think tactically more so than just fireball again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that even in this case, for the way that there's a movie coming out, for the way that D&D is in Stranger Things, for the popularity that it's gotten with Critical Role, Dungeon Dudes, and all those Jordan, all those people, there are so many people that are going to be getting into it, and they're going to think, you know, if they don't have anyone that they could have played with before, they're going to start at level 1.
Yeah, and
They're
it's
going to
be
start
tough.
with a really
That's
simple
the rough
module,
part,
and it's
yeah.
going to be very, very difficult for them. It's going to be very difficult now in very specific ways. There are things that are better, but like we said, there are things that we need to throw out with these. But if you have a new DM, and there are a lot of people
It's
getting
hard to tell
into
what you
it,
need to throw out.
the new DM's not going to understand the rule of cool and the rule of flex. You
All
know?
I'm
Yeah.
gonna say is the new DMs don't know that yet in 5e either. They're new for a reason. Like, speaking as someone who, when they came into D&D, played one session before going, I want a DM. There's a learning curve to it, regardless if that's 5e, 4e, AD&D 2, or one
Fucking
D&D.
Fantasy Flight, any tabletop
There is a
game, there's
learning curve if you're wanting to be the one to run the table. And that's just something that doesn't go... That's like the same as learning a new video game. It never goes
Right.
away.
So that's never going to go away. I think that these 3 rules are the ones that need work.
Feedback with?
They have a good idea. I like what they're trying to do. The auto pass and auto fail. Stupid.
Get it out.
I hate
Get
that.
it out of here.
I
Agreed.
hate that. Get rid of it.
Agreed.
The inspiration, adjust it. I like what they're trying to do. They just haven't
Small
hit
tweaks.
it yet.
Small
That
tweaks.
just needs a little bit.
Just
Critical hits need some work. I like where they're trying to go, and I
think it needs a
appreciate
rework or a revert for me.
I would almost honestly, like my DM brain going through this, I would say like sneak attack spells, they can soft crit. In which case you would roll half the damage die. So if it's a D12, you roll a D6 or something like that in addition to it.
A full and a half again or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, something that would give you can still hit harder, but it doesn't take away from the marshals being able to full crit. You know what I mean?
Especially for people like the monk, because they really haven't addressed the monk's damage yet.
Yeah.
That.
Or
The
like,
monk needs to be workable, but they haven't touched it in this.
or only having level 1 and 2 or 1, 2, and 3 spells be able to crit. Don't let cantrips crit because they scale, and don't let anything 3rd or 4th and higher crit because those already deal enough.
Those break.
And with spells not critting, that's not a huge change if you think about it, because AoE spells and 5e can't crit anyway, or not AoE specifically, but if they have a save, those can't crit anyway. So you're not losing out on a whole bunch. Yeah, your 8th or 9th level guiding bolt can't crit anymore. Oh no, that's already doing an insane amount of damage anyway.
It's already doing a ton, plus you're giving advantage. The idea of that is you're already doing a lot of damage, and you're giving advantage to your marshal that's coming up behind you.
Yeah.
That's
And
the point of it.
And like I said before with everything, is that I play the two most... I play two of the most broadly spell-listed classes. You know, so this is a general reduction for me, at least as far as everything goes so far. Until my bard hits level 6 per se,
Right.
or my wizard finds the spells somewhere and writes them
This
down. in
could
his
also
book for
be
an expensive term, expensive amount of things.
Wizards of the Coast trying to balance casters and marshals a little bit
I think
because
that's
of
what
that
they're trying
large
to do,
gap
because
that has
there's
occurred
a
in
massive
5e.
power gap.
I
Yeah.
can see that, and I
I
would
think
like
that
to
is
see...
the point, but that's why I like the idea of a soft crit. Don't take away crits completely, because everyone likes to feel like they fucking nailed it.
Yeah. I just want to shout out today's video sponsor. It is once again the Kickstarter campaign for the D&D Party Finder app.
It's gonna be awesome if we can get it.
Are you a new
Go
D&D
find your
player?
people.
Are you an introvert? Maybe you're a combination of both. Maybe you're one or the other. But if you can't find a D&D party and don't want to go through the effort of meeting people and interacting and going to game shots or trying to find the people in your area that want to play, let the app do it for you. You put in some basic information about your play style, your character, your DM style, whatever your campaign you're trying to run. Let the app use the filters that are going to be formed preset based on that information you give to let you find your perfect party. It'll let you chat with the prospective person, and then you can hop into whatever third-party platform such as Discord, Snapchat, whatever that GroupMe that you use to form your groups. Just let the app build the party for you. Have a pre-session 0. That's all we have for today, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us with this. I want to hear all of your guys' opinions on this UA. I really do. There's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of bad stuff.
This
Let me
might
know
be a
what you
great
think.
controversial discussion.
Right. I want to hear it. And if the comments are good, I would love to do a revisit where we debate with you guys.
And
because this is potentially the future. Like, this could be what we're all playing in 3 years.
And let us know if you want us to keep going over all of these packets so you don't have to read them. Like we said, this one was 21 pages, and we decided so you don't have to read it. You can just listen to our voices and let us discuss it for you.
Even if it was long. Thanks a lot, guys. Stick around every Monday for Intoxicated Intellects videos, tier lists, new content from D&D, Wizards of the Coast. Oh, God, no! Stop!
Until next time!